big solutions to climate change are not possible until after 2016. It requires the full force of Washington to help effectively address climate change. Only the federal government can provide the nationwide solutions that are needed. Meanwhile, everyone should continue to work on local and regional products that slow the growth of climate change and that minimize the damage it may create. Washington won't provide nationwide solutions until after the 26 national elections. It can't act until the voters tell it to act, and the voters have not told members of Congress what to do yet. A great number of Republicans need to help Washington act. But first, these Republicans must believe that climate is a threat. Progressive activists need to help them accept that climate change is that threat. A first step for progressives is to recognize that Republicans love this country as much as they love it themselves, and it's wise to accept the notion that these folks are intelligent people too. Secondly, progressives will increase their effectiveness in winning over Republicans if they remember that in this world of persuasion, emotions are more important than logic. Republicans' emotions are what holds the denial of climate change more than the logic of reasoning. The progressives need to help create a national narrative that helps the Republicans let go of those notions, the notions that hold on to climate change. They need to help the Republicans feel that climate change is a greater threat to the nation than the threat of the expansion of the federal government. The national narrative, I envision, would help Republicans to decide to vote for people in Congress and the executive who would lead the nation in addressing climate change. Once a national narrative is formed, it is important that every voter hear and feel the message of that narrative. Progressives need to find a mega voice to help the voters hear the message. The best mega voice that I can think of that will help the voters hear that voice, that message, is corporate America. Corporate America will provide the mega voice if progressives form an alliance with the corporations. Corporations want to help increase the value of the brand, and that is the opening, the key opportunity for progressives across the United States to form alliances with the great corporations, because nothing is more important to corporations than that brand. Now, a little later, I'm going to come back to the topic of the voice, this great voice that corporate America can provide the progressives. But first, I'd like to comment a little bit about the national narrative that needs to form, because a narrative, the national narrative, is what the voters follow. It helps them change their behavior and do things that the nation needs done. And I want to point out there's always various national narratives running through the air, running through our minds. They are like stories, they are themes. Like for a while, there was a national narrative that all corporations should outsource everything possible. And then recently with the election, the narrative was, well, if you're outsourcing things, well, that's politically not wise. Now, the national narrative that I envision would be one that the corporations of America would be happy to help establish in the United States. But that narrative would contain messages that the Republicans, the people who hold on to certain beliefs and notions, they would hear and feel these this narrative, and they'd start to let go of some of the emotions that keep them right now from letting go of the denial of climate change. First of all, conservatives cannot easily let go of the notion that climate change does not exist, that it's not a threat. And let me share why. The second conservatives, the Michelle Bachmans of the world, the Tea Party folks of the world, the second they start to accept that climate change might be a reality, you know what happens? They then suddenly have to accept that the United States federal government is the only power on this earth, the only power in this country that can take on and provide the big solutions. Solutions like cap and trade, land management, new approaches to construction, and expansion of energy efficiency, and other solutions. These are nationwide solutions. Now, the Republicans and the conservatives, as soon as they start to think of the expansion of a government, they, and in the words of Rick Perry, the governor of Texas, that's treason. We're moving into an area of thinking about committing treason. Let me explain. Because by definition, their definition, the expansion of federal government powers means the great erosion of our freedom, market freedom, personal freedom. It means the end of individuality in this country. It means the end of exceptionalism. It means the end of a lot of qualities that make us Americans Americans, that make us special in this world. And the conservatives, the Republicans, and all the Tea Party folks, they love this country. They don't want to see government destroying these great values. And when they think of that, they can't get to the point of letting go of climate change, because it sweeps right down to the erosion, the destruction of the great United States. So, what I suggest for all progressives, all folks that want to do something significant about changing the belief structure, letting the conservatives let go of some things that they need to let go of to make progress, they have to study sociology, human nature, human psychology, human behavior, psychology. And they have to reach into those fields of science and education and knowledge and find the techniques and approaches that will allow the conservatives to let go of their beliefs and to change their behavior. I want to go back to one. There is this belief by the behavioralist that we form a belief, and it's often panic or fear. Something frightens us, and we lose our sense of reasoning, and our emotions take over, and we really get behind that fear. And we do things that are irrational, like, for example, we sign up and join the army to go and fight and risk our lives in places. And one of the best examples of a fear that overtook this country was when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Everybody signed up. We were frightened. Californians were frightened. Other people were frightened that the Japanese were going to land in Half Moon Bay, Santa Cruz, Los Angeles. People got frightened, and that led them to do different things. And so with the conservatives who fear government taking over, it's good to help them find a fear that may be greater than what they presently fear climate change, accepting climate change will do to this country. And so I thought of one little thing. One might put in a basket climate change, the fear of climate change, and maybe the fear of losing energy independence, and maybe the fear of inequality, maybe the fear of loss of human rights and other fears, things that are present today. There are also narratives in this country right now that this country is struggling with, and trying to let the conservatives see all the fears, because it's not just climate change, but many, many other things. And maybe if they could see that whole basket of challenges the nation faces, and they're all interrelated. For example, climate change and the economic divide are related. And it's related like this. The wealthy communities in this country do not want to give money to the less wealthy parts of this country, to get the less parts of this country to stop doing things that contribute to climate change, like using a lot of coal, okay? And economic issue, an economic divide issue. And then on the other hand, the wealthy countries, the wealthy parts of this country have obtained a certain standard of living. They don't want to give it up. And the less fortunate parts of the world and the less parts of this country want what the wealthy have, and they don't want things imposed upon them that are going to keep them from getting what they want. Now, one has to think a lot about what's going to happen also in this economic divide and the poor people. When climate keeps hitting, it's the poor people. They lose their farms, they lose their houses, they lose their wealth. A lot of them wind up with hardly anything. And we could have another Dust Bowl that happened in the 30s, happen in the United States as a result of drought that'll be caused by climate change. And it could lead to millions and millions of people in Texas, in Oklahoma, in the Midwest, losing their farms, their property, their wealth, and getting to the point in life where they have to survive, and they will do almost anything to survive. And that shakes the fabric, the society, it shakes the country, it threatens the sustainability of the country. It is important, I think, for progressives to help the conservatives and the Republicans step back and see climate change and how it's related to so many other social, environmental, and energy issues, and what would happen to all those issues and situations if when climate change gets worse, and they can possibly see the greater threat to the nation than the threat of the federal government. And maybe they can let go a little bit of the threat of the federal government to their freedom and start accepting climate change and start coming around to the point where at the 2014 election, they just might remove some congresspersons that have not gotten to the point where they can accept this great threat to our nation, climate change, and elect some new people. And then certainly by 2016, they have a chance to elect more people who have a more large progressive view of the real threats to the nation and so forth. So a narrative has to be developed, and it has to help change the behavior, the thinking, the feelings of the Republicans and the conservatives, so that we all can get together and instruct the government to act. And Waldo Emerson once said, "You don't want to march at night. It's like marching without the people. You have to have the people marching with you." All right, so I've shared my points about a national narrative. But a narrative, and we can think of it as like a book. We got to get the people to read the book. We have to get the people to know it exists. So the next thing progressives should do, besides helping to form a new national narrative, is to find a mega voice, a powerful voice that can help get this narrative heard and felt by all voters. And it is corporate America. Corporate America is ideal for grabbing hold of this narrative and telling everybody, bringing it to the attention to everyone. But corporate America is only going to act in its own parochial, to its own parochial needs. Corporations have a need to increase the value of their brand. And it's ironic in a way that the most important element, characteristic, quality, attribute of corporations' brands today is something that is, it almost sounds like it's related to climate change, which is just amazing. I want to share what it is. The most important attribute of a corporation's brand today is none other than sustainability. And isn't sustainability one of the solutions to climate change? You know, you have energy sustainability, which is really all about conservation, efficiency, and alternative energy. Now, I want to share how all this works. And first of all, why sustainability is the most important element of branding today in corporate America, corporate world. Something happened about 10, 15 years ago. I don't know exactly when it happened, but the word sustainability and the concept of sustainability started to spread into manufacturing processes and other processes in companies. And, you know, it went to the area of manufacturing and the use of energy and to reducing the number of how much greenhouse gases are emitted. Every corporation in the United States is concerned with being able to point out to their potential customers and their investors that they are not releasing a lot of emissions into the air and other things. Now, here's the really big thing that happened. In corporate America, Dow Jones, publisher of the Wall Street Journal, and a lot of other things related to business. They're synonymous with business investments. Dow Jones started an index some time ago called the Dow Jones Sustainability Index. It's a special measure, a special index, a special way to do something with the concept of sustainability. Yes, it looks at companies and it measures and reports on the sustainability of their human rights program, their billing processes, their relationships with customers, investors, their emissions, all those normal things we think of being measured with respect to sustainability. They've gone a big, gigantic step forward. This Dow Jones Sustainability Index ranks the sustainability of the companies themselves. What is significant about that? Well, the Dow Jones Sustainability Index has about 4 different categories. They have a world list of companies. They rank. They have a North American list, a United States list, an Asian list. If you're Fidelity or if you're Goldman Sachs and you're thinking about putting $500 million, $100 million in some company, one of the first places you go to is the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, and you take a look at the companies that are ranked number 1, 2, 3, 4 in this sector, this 1, 2, 3, 4, and that ranking is a measure of, in a way, the longevity, the possible life going of these different corporations. And One, you say to yourself, well, if companies didn't make the cut and get on this list, they haven't been tested and measured by Dow Jones and certified as a company that's likely to survive and keep going. And getting on this list is hard. Corporations have to do a lot of things. They have to make investments in their processes, change their processes, and report. And they're really glad to do that because the esteem they get when they get ranked and get a high ranking means a lot to them. First of all, the trivial thing that it means to them, but here we're talking about millions and billions of dollars. Potential customers see how a company is ranked. Which company is the most sustainable software company in the United States? That means millions and millions of dollars to the company that got ranked that way. And then, customers are important, but there's another group that is even more important, and that is the investors. They are only going to put their money with the highest ranking companies, okay? So the Dow Jones Sustainability Index has clearly, in my mind, made sustainability the #1 element of corporate brands today. And so now here's the opening for progressive organizations that want to help create the national narrative. All they have to do is log on to the Dow Jones Sustainable Index and identify the winners. And then you search for, let's say, IBM, which is a winner, and IBM Sustainability Index, Dow Jones, and you are likely to find the contact people in the corporation who are in charge of promoting and marketing the fact that IBM has won a place on that list. Every winner wants all the investors and all the customers to know they are a winner. They are going to survive. They are a good investment, a good company to do business with. All the progressives have to do now is go to those contacts and present them with some kind of idea that would help those corporations get the information about their brand out there. I want to share one person's approach. First of all, I hope all progressives think about what I'm saying and they get there ahead of me and help these corporations promote their brand and in doing so help develop the narrative. But I have developed a body of art called Sustainable America, the National Narrative. It's over 20 pieces. And I'm starting to approach the winners of the Dow Jones Sustainable Index and to point out to them that they can grab hold of this art, which is about what they're into, sustainable America, and it's so much like sustainable IBM or sustainable Apple, etc. And they can use this art to help bring the public, the investors' attention to them and their win. But at the same time, the art is produced in such a way that that when people come and view the art, I put together many of the great challenges of our time, like peace, that's what we're showing right now, climate change, energy independence. I put a whole bunch of the great challenges of our time into one basket of art. And I believe the liberal media when they start writing about IBM showing this particular art, the public, the voters, will start to get a feel for seeing the big picture of all the challenges we face. And then I'm hoping that this will help soften up a lot of Republicans and conservatives to help them start or be able to give up some of their beliefs. Well, that's just one approach. One approach, one person having created something that will help the great corporations bring attention to their win, to their valued brand that means millions and even billions to some companies. But the opportunity is wide open for everybody else. And I was just looking the other night at Ken Burns's Dust Bowl. And you know what Ken Burns is doing, really? He's doing exactly what I'm talking about. He recognizes the need to soften up the feelings of the conservatives and Republicans. That's why he made Dust Bowl, because the people of Oklahoma, Texas were very independent once. And then the Dust Bowl came and they were destroyed. And it was the federal government that stepped in to help the people, help them get back on their feet. Ken is sending a message. All right, I want to thank you. I'm Michael Killen, and I'm at killen.com. I welcome anyone who has questions about how they can implement these ideas. I certainly welcome folks who'd like to come and assist me do what I'm doing. Thank you.